Haha, my boy, they're kicking out all the Americans from Mexico, my boy. Did you hear the news, my boy? All the Mexicanos, my boy, they're sick and tired of all the gringos coming into Mexico, my boy, and taking their land, my boy. They got up and started breaking stuff, my boy, telling all the Americanos, my boy, to go back home, my boy.
Breaking news. The president of Mexico has stated that he will begin to deport Americans that have moved to Mexico without proper documentation, aka illegal immigrants. This comes after the president of Mexico states that he is tired of Americans gentrifying cities in Mexico. In the past 3 weeks, we have seen different events where Americans try to colonize beaches, public areas, and even salsa.
The Mexicans said, if we got to go, y'all got to go. Yes, they're coming for you, Americans. There have been over 240,000 apprehensions over the past 60 days, and 7,000 Americans have been deported. And
Guys, the Mexican locals don't want me in Mexico. Well, not necessarily the ones in my town, but the ones in Mexico City are really pissed. But then some are saying that Trump doesn't want Mexicans. So where do I go? If I can't be in the United States and I can't be in Mexico, do I go to Asia? No, I'm just kidding. But there was a protest on July 4th where they were just messing things up and they were not playing around. Like they were breaking windows from gringo owners, apparently. Keep in mind, there were people in these businesses when this protest started. Like it got pretty crazy. It's giving peaceful protest. Just look how they're leaving Mexico City. But also big companies like Starbucks were being vandalized. But I kind of get that because you're paying 100 pesos for a cup of coffee and the minimum wage workers are making around 250 pesos if they're getting paid minimum wage a day. That I can see why they're pissed. They were also calling gringos some pretty bad names on the signs and on the walls. If the roles were reversed here, people will go crazy. For those of you that wanted to work in Mexico and live off a remote job, I don't think that's a good idea anymore. Or what do you guys think? Because apparently Mexico isn't very immigrant friendly either.
In this video, we take a look at the situation of Mexico deporting some white Americans. Whereas some white Americans are undocumented in Mexico, some have also bought properties and are now preventing Mexicans from accessing certain parts of their own country, most especially the beaches. So let's watch the following videos that will come back here and discuss further about it. But before we watch the videos, if you haven't yet liked this video, kindly like the video and also subscribe to the channel. Let's watch the videos together.
Aha, my boy, they're kicking out all the Americans from Mexico, my boy. Did you hear the news, my boy? All the Mexicanos, my boy, they're sick and tired of all the gringos coming into Mexico, my boy, and taking their land, my boy. They got up and started breaking stuff, my boy, telling all the Americanos, my boy, to go back home, my boy. It's funny, my boy, because all the gringos right now, all the Americans, my boy, they're saying, hey, you guys are being racist, my boy. Why are you guys kicking us out, my boy? This and that, my boy. It's crazy how the Americanos been kicking out all the Mexicanos, my boy. But yet, when the Mexicanos be kicking out the Americanos, it's like, oh, you guys are being racist, this and that, my boy. Hey, my boy, you guys be picking and choosing, my boy. What's it gonna be, my boy? Mexico's tired of all that, my boy. They're kicking out all the Americanos, my boy. They're tired of it, my boy. It's not going down, my boy. What do you guys think about this, my boy? Tell me, my boy. Are you mad, my boy?
For decades, Mexican Americans were legally considered white. But in real life, they weren't treated like it. In the early 1900s, the U.S. didn't count Latinos as a separate race. So on paper, in courtrooms, on birth certificates, and government forms, they were labeled white. But in real life, they were banned from restaurants, denied service, forced into segregated schools, and because they were white on paper, they couldn't even challenge that discrimination using race-based laws. That's what made the Mendez versus Westminster case so important in 1947. It proved that Mexican-American children were being excluded, even when the law said they belonged. That case helped lay the groundwork for Brown versus Board of Education, but the deeper issue never went away. Even today, Latinos are still treated as too white to count, too brown to belong. They're often left out of conversations about racism, but still targeted by it. Same system, new tactics. History isn't lost, it's buried.
U.S. News won't show you this. but I will. Gabriel Seth Rogers, a white U.S. citizen from Casper, Wyoming, was just arrested in Sinaloa, Mexico. And his crime? He was fleeing the United States to avoid prison time for drug trafficking and possession of stolen firearms. He was sentenced to 44 months in prison, plus supervised release, in order to pay over $27,000 in restitution. But before he could serve his sentence, he fled and crossed the border into Mexico. Rogers was tracked down living comfortably in a gated community in Sinaloa, Mexico. Thanks to coordinated efforts by the Mexican military and federal agencies, he's now in custody awaiting deportation. So a white American drug trafficker flees to Mexico, gets arrested by Mexican authorities, and then deported back to the US. And the Trump administration is saying Mexico isn't sending their best. Funny how people in the United States never hear about stories like Gabriel here.
Breaking news. The president of Mexico has stated that he will begin to deport Americans that have moved to Mexico without proper documentation, aka illegal immigrants. This comes after the president of Mexico states that he is tired of Americans gentrifying cities in Mexico. In the past 3 weeks, we have seen different events where Americans try to colonize beaches, public areas, and even salsa. While a lot of these Americans have moved to Mexico for a better life, they move there because they cannot afford to live here in the United States. So move to Mexico so they can afford a lifestyle there. But locals have raised their prices because Americans are paying in dollars, while locals that are still shopping have to pay in pesos and now have to pay the equivalent of the dollar. And instead of these people moving to Mexico and bettering the economy, they're making it horrible for the people that live there. You know, the natives. And if you already did not know, the amount of Mexicans migrating to the United States has slowed down by the 100,000 since 2019. The amount of Mexicans living in the United States leaving willingly back to Mexico has increased drastically. And while Mexicans are moving back to Mexico, a lot of Americans have been moving to Mexico for a better life. But my, how the tables have turned. What are your thoughts?
Did you hear about that? Mexico is now deporting Americans out of Mexico. All you ones that want to go be happy the immigrants are being deported and then go visit Mexico or live in Mexico while you run your business here in America, them days are over. Y'all want to laugh at the immigrants for being deported? Are they laughing at you? Bye. Get out of Mexico. And the president of Mexico is welcoming all the immigrants back home. Please come home. We welcome you with loving arms, she said. Y'all gonna see the tides are gonna change. These immigrants are gonna stop being treated the way y'all treating them and laughing at them and locking them up, detaining them and beating them. Them days are over. Mexico is fighting back, and they're going to deport you from their country. And I hope it's one of you MAGAs that are so happy they're getting deported. I hope it's one of you that get deported from Mexico. Bye.
You know, the irony that Mexican citizens in Mexico City are protesting American presence in their country. What in the uno reverso? Listen, that's what happens. Don't you think that the timing of it is just ironic? You know, America starts kicking all of the Mexicans out, and then Mexicans are like, no. We want you out of here too, because you're gentrifying our city. And I love that. I love that because, yeah, you want the benefit. Because believe it or not, a lot of Americans actually live in Mexico illegally. I know, it's crazy. Wow. And so no, they want tougher legislation on it. And yeah, they're pissed. And I love that for them. So
Yo, it's your favorite brainwashed liberal here, and I don't think I've ever seen so much retaliation from other countries towards the United States, for obvious reasons, like Donald Trump. So spring break has been a disaster for MAGA, specifically MAGA Americans that are trying to find a cheap place to retire and go live at, particularly in, you know, vacation spots like Cancun and Acapulco, places like that, because Mexican people watch the news, and they've been paying attention to how Americans talk about Mexican people living in America. Not only that, but it's actually been really disastrous for MAGA Americans specifically, and just Americans in general who are looking for a cheap place to retire. It's been disastrous for the Mexican people. There's a kind of like hard gentrification happening there where rent has risen as a result of gentrification, like by about 40%, probably even more than that by the time that this video goes out. And it really just sort of makes it so that impoverished Mexicans have to further choose between rent, food, and things like electricity, not to mention other expenses. There's people saying that MAGA shouldn't be wearing their red hats or anything, or any pro-Trump merch. This can lead to them being targeted by Mexican citizens and things like that, which, I don't condone, but more power to Mexico. And apparently there's stuff on the news about people reportedly destroying businesses and things like places that have set up shop and everything like that. I don't know if that's true or not. But it begs the question, if you proudly wear your anti-Mexican hate, not only through your merch, but also your rhetoric and everything like that, why would you go to Mexico? You don't like those people. And they sure as hell don't like you, so what are you doing, man? This is further illustrated by people who are vacationing in Mexico, being held up at the airport and being sent to the immigration line, being searched, and it's just they're just trolling. Making life absolutely miserable for those who expect white privilege in other countries. I've even heard about personal anecdotes of people who go to beaches and tell mariachi bands to stop playing mariachi music, which, I mean, come on, bro. And they can't even really just eat their food in peace. Like, MAGA is just not catching a break. Like, people have been saying that during spring break, which is when this all started, restaurants are secretly spitting in the foods and beverages of MAGA Americans. But the thing that really pisses them off the most, other than, the possible gentrification and the proud hatred of Mexican people through merchandise, is really just the family separation, the anti-immigration, things like that, and just the general racism. So, yeah, that's just karma, guys. Like, don't mess with the Mexican people. And more importantly, don't be racist.
People forget that the Spanish colonial system was literally codified in paintings. This is how they depicted race. There were 16 or more races in colonial Spain or Mexico in the American Southwest. At the top were white people, and all the white people had different names depending on their mixture. In the middle are indigenous people, which is right here in the middle. And then down here are black people or West African people that they brought during slavery. So this shows you that these are the three different groups that created the colonial system of Mexico. So the people who are denying that black people were part of the cowboy culture, vaquero culture, literally right here, they are part of the culture. In the middle, indigenous people were in the middle. They had better treatment than black people, and then white people were at the top. Spanish inherited the system from the Moors, and in 1491, that's when they defeated the Moors, and in 1492 is when they came to, but this is their system. This is how they codified their system to say, oh, if you're mixed with this and this and that, this is what you are. And so the goal was, it was like a game or something. The goal was, how do you get to whiteness? And this is how you did it. The colonial system of Mexico is or Nueva España was very different from the British one. And so people that are denying certain things about black Mexicans, well, the evidence is in the paintings, literally. Really important to understand these really, really nuanced things about the Spanish system that are very different from the British one.
I live in a town of 8,600 people. It's 98.1% white. Care to take a guess what our crime rate is?
Guarantee you say where you live, it's gonna go up. Oh, he's not done.
Do Asians see things that are far away better than we do because they're already squinting?
Keep it up, sir. I'm sure somebody's about to give you two black eyes that make you squint.
Look, I'm not saying ICE may or may not have made a couple oopsies, but everybody makes some oopsies. And I don't know why you're complaining about ICE making an oopsie and deporting somebody to another country, because you demand the right for when you make an oopsie, you can kill it. We're not killing anything.
Mexican rioters are kicking Americans out of their country. Look at this. This is crazy. This is happening in Mexico City. They are destroying businesses. Look at this. Oh, there's some glass. And they're going in. Oh, man, look at all the people filming. This is crazy. They're telling them to leave the country. This guy's writing to a gringo. That's not good. Here they are trying to break into a restaurant. It's already got spray paint on it. Look at that. This guy's got a knife. That's terrifying, man. Ripping down the outdoor dining. There's so many people filming it, and there's zero police anywhere. What do you do? No police. What do you do? Now they're attacking some apartments, it looks like. Throwing rocks at them. It's just total anarchy.
Okay, so let me get this straight. White people are going down to Mexico for vacation and are complaining that the Mexican bands that play on the Mexican beaches are too loud. And the white people complain so much that the Mexicans that ran those Mexican hotels was trying to ban the Mexican bands from playing Mexican music on the Mexican beaches. So the Mexican president got involved and had to send the Mexican military to go down to the Mexican beach because there was too many Mexican protesters protesting against the white people who were trying to ban the Mexican bands. And so the Mexican military is singing alongside the Mexican protesters. Then y'all get mad when people call y'all mayonnaise warriors. Not only that, they have mayonnaise warriors who have moved down to Mexico that have caused a lot of the Mexican restaurants to stop making spicy food. So a lot of the Mexican restaurants are saying that they have to throw out tons and tons of food because white people are complaining so much about the food being spicy that they have to redo a lot of their orders. How about the white people in Mexico? Why don't you go back to your country? And y'all quick to say, it's not always about race. So what is this?
Then why even post? Like, honestly, your whole TikTok is of you replying and crashing out to liberals with no point. Then why even post? You're calling for them like they pay your bills. Let me tell you, they don't pay your bills. You need to look for a 9-to-5 maybe. But what I also find pretty funny is that you're a naturalized citizen. You're over here simping for MAGA. MAGA is not even a political party. It's just a movement of people who miss the good old days where people like you or me weren't even allowed. But yeah, honestly, the jokes write themselves.
Yesterday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt discussed how the Trump administration and Mexico are in trade talks for a huge trade deal. Here we go.
Mexico is still paying tariffs. They're paying a 25% tariff on fentanyl, 25% tariff on cars, a 50% tariff on steel, aluminum, and copper. And additionally, Mexico has agreed to immediately terminate its non-tariff trade barriers, of which there are many. And as the president said, we will continue to talk to Mexico over the next 90 days with the goal of signing a larger trade deal. The key to this, again, is Mexico has agreed to terminate those non-tariff barriers and to continue to work with us in good faith. Mexico is a very unique situation of all the other countries around the world because, of course, we share our southern border with Mexico, which we've seen an increase in cooperation between Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum and our administration on clamping down on drug trafficking and human trafficking at the southern border. We appreciate those efforts and will continue to work in good faith and to continue to have these trade discussions as well.
America loves to erase ugly history. So let's talk about the time that the U.S. deported over 2 million Mexicans, many of whom were actually American citizens. During the Great Depression, white Americans were blaming Mexicans that they were stealing jobs. Does that sound familiar to you? And the government solution? Mass deportations. But this wasn't just about undocumented immigrants. This included Mexican, American, U.S. citizens. You're probably wondering, well, why are they being deported? You know what? It's as simple as them literally racially profiling Mexicans. All that they were looking for were Mexicans, no matter if they were an illegal immigrant or if they were a US citizen. Because the thing is that they deported over millions of fucking US citizens that were Mexican. They didn't care about legal status. They didn't care about families. They rounded up entire communities, grabbing people from their homes, from their workplace, from parks, and even their hospital bed. Imagine being sick in a hospital, being dragged out of your bed to get deported to a country that you have never lived in. And this is the thing, this isn't random. It was the US government, police officers, and everything else all the way up to federal level. They were working together to make sure that these communities were erased. They used propaganda to try and paint Mexicans as a burden, but then once they needed cheap labor, they decided to, guess what, bring them back. Does that sound familiar? Because this playbook is still being used today. Latinos are still being blamed for the economic problems that they didn't even create. Immigrants are still being exploited for labor and then thrown away when it's convenient. This is the same country that has built its wealth off of immigration labor, but then turns their back when times get tough. This is why history matters. Okay, they want us to forget so we can keep forgetting, but here's the thing. We see the pattern. So what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it?
Recently just took a trip to Cancun, Mexico. We went for our wedding anniversary and it was amazing. My point in being there, quick story, while I was in the airport lineup to come back in through customs, this was actually in Houston because I had to get a connecting flight. What happened is massive people, lots of people from all over the world in this one massive room. And we kept, switching. The lines kept moving rather fast, and I kept swaying past these people from Texas. It was a husband and wife, probably in their 50s, early 50s, with one of them's parents, who was probably in their 70s, all wearing cowboy hats, cowboy belt buckles, the boots, the whole getup. Okay. Then, as I am passing, you hear different conversations in passing, right? I was continuing to hear these white people from Texas who just left Cancun making major racial comments, right? And I can't believe no one called them out. I was literally biting my tongue. I wanted to so bad to say something, but I didn't. If that ever happens again, I'm not going to be able to bite my lip because literally I will bite my lip off. Moral of this story is, if you're a white guy or girl, woman, man, whatever, from anywhere in the United States, and you voted for Donald Trump and his minions to get illegal aliens out of the United States, you are the problem, and you do not deserve to.
Welcome back. So in this video, we took a look at the situation of Mexico deporting some white Americans. Now, there are some white Americans who have also moved to the United States and have overstayed their visas. So as at now, they are undocumented immigrants in Mexico. And now these people, some of them are causing problem in the country of Mexico. There are some places that have been acquired by some of these immigrants who are in Mexico, like the beaches, and then they are now preventing the indigents of Mexico from accessing the beaches. So a situation like that popped up, and authorities had to clamp down on that and deport all these people back to the United States of America. I don't see why you come from the United States, live in the country of Mexico, acquire property over there at the beachfront, and you do not want anyone to access the beach any longer. This is never right at all. I don't think a Mexican can leave Mexico, go into the United States of America, and then buy property along the beaches in the United States and prevent anyone from getting access to the public beaches in the United States of America. It does not happen in the United States, and so it should never happen in Mexico. Now, majority of these Americans, white Americans in Mexico, some of them have overstayed their visa. So in that case, they also become illegal immigrants, just as the United States is shouting mass deportation, and ICE is rounding up people and deporting them back to their various countries of origin. The same is being done by Mexico authorities, where people who are also undocumented or have overstayed their visa are also being deported back to the United States of America. And I think this is nothing wrong. If you do not need illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants in the United States of America, the same also applies to Mexico. What is good for the gander must equally be good for the goose. So if Mexico is doing the same thing, I don't see anything wrong with that. Now, when these people also move to Mexico, since the economy of the United States is huge, or the currency has higher value than the currency used in Mexico, they tend to make the cost of living in Mexico rise up, because the costs of prices of food items in Mexico can easily be afforded by people coming in from the United States of America. So per the laws of economics, if there is a lot of demand for that produce, the price just naturally moves up. And this makes life difficult or uncomfortable for the indigents who live in Mexico. And this is not something that will help the Mexican people who are living over there, because their cost of living will constantly rise and they cannot compete with the foreigners who are coming in from the United States of America. Now, one thing that is causing people to leave the United States and then go to Mexico is because the cost of living in the United States now is rising. All the policies that are being implemented by Donald Trump is making life quite uncomfortable in the United States of America. There are a lot of people in the United States who have relocated. Some are also planning to relocate. I've seen a lot of videos of professionals, doctors, who have left the United States and have moved to Canada. So some of these people are also trying to move to other places in order for them to enjoy a better living, a higher standard of living. For instance, if you earn $10,000 in the United States and you stay in the United States and spend that $10,000, the kind of value that you will get will be less than someone who takes that equivalence of $10,000 to Mexico and spends that $10,000 in Mexico. The one who will spend in Mexico would have a higher purchasing power and will have a higher standard of living than the one in the United States. So this is one thing that is causing people to move from the United States to Mexico. Let me know what you think about all these in the comment section below. And don't forget to share this video with your friends and your family on other social media platforms like WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and other social media platforms. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Just to get the subscribe button down here, click on the subscribe button, click as well on the notification bell, and I'd like to see you again in my next video.